Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Neutral Access Club. Today, we interview Stella Kim. Stella is a civil engineer working in construction management, and today we learn about her journey as a civil engineer. We'll dive into her experience working in construction management as a minority and as a woman, her advice for recent graduates of civil engineering, and how to fire up your career as a civil engineer. Without further ado, here is Stella Kim. All right, Stella, thank you for joining the Neutral Access Club. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Wilson.
Of course. You are. I am honored to have you here today because you are not only my friend, you're also a colleague, and I love the honor to interview you and get to know a little more about you outside of what I already know about you. But it's good for the audience to know a lot about your story and your journey as a civil engineer. So, how about we start with that? Share a little bit about your story in becoming a civil engineer and where you are now professionally.
Professionally, so I started, I guess we have to go back to our Cornell days. I
Yes.
studied civil engineering with focus, with concentration in structural engineering, thinking that we all was going to become a structural engineer. Which, as some of you may already know, that I am not practicing structural engineering. I decided to go to construction. So I am in project management field. So
Mhm.
I have been with my company for 5 years now. So through that, I've been in a healthcare sector where I get to build hospitals. So that has been my experience in terms of work.
Did you always know that you wanted to be a civil engineer?
Um, in a way, yes. So I come from a family of immigrants, so math and science has been always my comfort subject, or it has been my forte. So I knew I was interested in math and science because, like languages or history, I feel like had a lot more nuances that I had to really learn or knew. So math and science, and it introduced me to engineering in high school, and I wanted to study engineering once I went off to college. And then I fortunately experienced a summer program while I was in high school, and I saw a few tangible. I mean, I was able to experience different engineering programs within the summer program that they offered. And one day they took us to a field trip to a construction site, and I just enjoyed it. I just enjoyed the chaos that you can possibly have at the construction site. So that's why I decided to do civil engineering. I also love to see the tangible changes and the progress that they all make every single day. That has been a very enjoyable experience. So that was definitely one of the reasons why I decided to pursue civil engineering.
That's great. So it sounds like you have a very common path to become a civil engineer. Some engineers would tell you they have the Lego story. Oh, I used to play with Legos, whatnot. I It was a little similar to me because when I was about eight, if I do the math correctly, uh, my dad was rebuilding his school. So my grandma was a educator. She was a teacher
Mhm.
in my village back in the Dominican Republic, and she had a school, so like a private school, which was made out of like very old timber. So it was very old looking. So my dad made investments around early 2000s to make it upgrade it to be like made out of concrete and whatnot. So he rebuilt the entire school, and I got to see that. I was very big enough, so I got to see the construction, how it was going every day, and to me it was fascinating. Similar to you, how the entire construction progress day by day, things changing, going up, the building going up and whatnot. So that was definitely an excitement for me as well, and I think why many that's one of the many reasons why a lot of civil engineers end up choosing construction after they finish your undergrad because they like that tangible benefit of seeing things being built, taking things from paper all the way to construction. But I'm curious about how you you went to Cornell for the purpose of studying structural engineer, becoming a structural engineer. At what point do you decide, hey, structural engineering is not for me? I rather do construction. How was that decision making?
So I know I previously mentioned in our podcast when we did like our introductory, like all of our undergrad classmates were studying to become a structural engineer and go into that field. And some of them are also trying to pursue masters so that they can go into structural. So, like I was very much surrounded by people who were going to become one. But I think probably the summer internship that I had at a construction company definitely, helped me shape my own future. That, at first I was like, is this the right path or is this not right path? But the interactions that I had, or the things that I learned, the project management itself, you're managing people, quality, and the time at a construction job site. So that has been very, active and very, like you just have to have a lot of passion. And I just enjoyed that environment. So that's why I have decided to go into construction management.
The construction sites are too much of a show. I have
It
been there as a
is.
consultant, and I get
Mhm.
one day, a taste of it for one day, and I'm like, this is a lot. This is a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm curious though, how you as a woman, as a minority, how has that transition been from going, let's say, from Cornell, where women are encouraged and welcome to, pursue engineering fields, and then switching to an actual site that is construction,
Mhm.
primarily male dominated. How did you handle that transition, and whether was it welcoming to you as a woman and as a minority?
Mhm. So it's actually funny that you mentioned that because I think so. I started back in 2013 with my undergrad. So when we first started, I think like the engineering department mentioned that our year was the very first year where women and men were 50-50 for the first time. So, that shows that not just construction, field, but also like just in general, like even in academia where you definitely see a lot more women, right? That also took some time. Like it had to be like 2013 to get to 50-50 point. So back in, going back to construction, like of course, finding a woman is kind of rare, but also finding an Asian woman is also even more rare. So I'm definitely that rare kind. So it does give me like somewhat a responsibility, right, to do better or do well in my position or my job, so that people who look like me later in the future comes along to try to pursue, the same or take the same path as me. I definitely want them to not to feel, threatened or like, be scared to have a career in construction management. Um, so that has been definitely a goal of mine, is to be more active, be more inquisitive, and be more, just try more, just to so that you have more, a little bit more conversation with the trade partners. You learn more about, the construction process, so you get to really know what you're doing. Then obviously, I believe that the confidence will come with the knowledge that you have. So that has been my approach.
That is very beautiful of you to say, kind of like laying out the path
Mhm.
for others to follow, and I applaud you for that. And I have seen that as well,
Yeah,
so I am a
thank you.
witness. So
Mhm,
I am glad that you're thinking ahead, and not just for you, not being selfish for your own good, but also for those who may want to pursue
mhm,
that path as well.
mhm.
But did you have any fears at all to become a civil engineer while studying, while entering the workforce, perhaps as a woman, minority, Asian woman in construction? Do you have any fears, and how have you handled them or overcome them?
Right. So I guess when I was, first going into construction industry as a full time, like, initially I had this internship experience. Like I was in a way confident that like I knew what I was getting myself into, but I have to admit that it was very different. Being an intern and being a part time, like just being there was very different than a full-time worker. What I have to say is I I think it's very important that the society also and or the organization be more active and make more effort, so that it's the work environment that I'm in or you're in or we're all in, um, is a little bit more, diverse, more inclusive, and more equitable, so that it would be easy for anyone to, like, transition. Like, it's already difficult to transition as a student to become you know a professional worker, but like adding, that aspect of diversity, or lack thereof, will be even more difficult. So that's something that I want to kind of emphasize, how important it is to have that kind of support and, yeah, support.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, and it's something that I try to bring up in
Hmm.
all my the companies that I worked for, and it's how we truly appreciate all the effort that is being done to increase diversity in the workplace,
Right.
hiring and giving more opportunities
Hmm.
for those who are underrepresented in the architecture, engineering, construction industry.
Hmm.
And it's all great, right? But at the same time, whether we come from the same school or we graduated from the same school, we graduated with a very large group of students who
Right.
come from very diverse backgrounds.
Hmm.
Mostly they grew up here in the United States. They already have
Right.
second, third generation students. We are first generation students here in the US, pursuing
Hmm.
a degree, going to a school that is an Ivy League. And while studying in the school itself was really challenging, going to the workforce is even more challenging because
Right.
even though we have a seat at the table, we don't get to eat the same. And the way I think about it is that, okay, yeah, we graduated from the same school, we are working as a professional in the industry,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we don't have the same kind of training
Hmm.
to accomplish certain tasks. We don't have the same support system, perhaps, that will give us the confidence to go task after task and kill it over there in the
Hmm.
field. Or
Right.
perhaps we have language barrier. Perhaps we don't have uh, the technical ability that's needed
Hmm.
to pursue certain tasks and everything.
Yeah.
So when a company hires an engineer from an underrepresented group,
Mhm.
I usually bring up the fact that we may not be able to accomplish or perform at the same
Right.
level as anybody else has been in the U.S. for a very long time, or
Hmm.
has parents who were already engineers, or
Right.
even are professionals. So uh, I really encourage those who are in the position of hiring a underrepresented group to someone from an underrepresented group to actually provide them with the tools that will allow them to succeed in the workplace. So
Hmm.
I'm glad that you brought that up
Hmm.
as well. But did anybody influence you to? Do you have any like role model that influenced you to become a civil engineer or go into construction, especially a woman? Because if I was in your position, I would try to find somebody that looks like me, one way or the other, who has already been through the same path. So did you have that someone?
So fortunately, every projects that I have involved, or even since from the internship, there were other women. I was able to learn from, really look up to, but like my recent project was, I was the only woman in our like very small 5 people group. But not only women, but also like our man, our my I was just able to learn, really, pick up the basically best character, best um habits that they do at work, and to really embrace that and then make that as a yours, so that you get to also learn from them and just apply the good qualities that they have, so that you also grow as professionally. I think that had been a very good experience for me. All my managers has been fortunately very great. So I had a lot of things to learn from them. So yeah, that has been like the one of my go-to. Really, have some one-on-one time with them and to learn their experience and like learn how they handle difficult situation or difficult part of the process as well, and just to learn. I mean, I probably will emphasize or reiterate multiple times during this interview, but learning and your willingness to learn is definitely the most important character.
That is well said. Having a growth mindset when it comes to everything in life, because
Mhm.
we want to grow, we want to advance
Right.
day by day, and every interaction, every opportunity is a learning opportunity. So that's
Mhm.
well said. So I know that you listen to one podcast that is called Finding the Neutral Axis, and
One and
some
only.
the one and only.
Yeah.
As you may already know, Stella and I we host Finding a Neutral Axis podcast, where we share the stories of thriving professionals in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. So make sure that you go ahead and listen to it in your favorite podcast listening platform. But I'm curious, Stella, do you have any other books that you read or podcasts that you listen to that you recommend to the audience?
So podcast wise, I mean, I always try to explore different things, but the daily is my go-to.
The dairy.
Um, like that's like something that I listen, constantly and more continuously. But the book wise, I'm exploring two books right now. So one is called An American Sickness. It's not relevant to any of the engineering or construction, or maybe in a way. I mean, everything correlates. But basically, that book is about healthcare system in United States, and it's corruption. It's so um, it's very interesting because I built hospitals, and then I just wanted to learn a little bit more about the backstory of the healthcare system. So that has been interesting because like I also had an experience with, being an adult. Now you have to worry about insurance and all of that stuff. Like it talks about all that too. So it has been a very informative book. So I would definitely highly recommend to anyone who's interested in learning more about, healthcare, insurance, of United States, the system in the US. That has been a good book. Another book that I'm entertaining right now is Body Language. Basically, the posture or the like, unconscious like poses that you sometimes throw, like facial expression, like what it means and how it comes from, why people value things. It's actually a very interesting book. So, learning more about body language in a way is, I feel like, is a important thing since I'm in a people business. Construction is obviously heavily, you deal with the client or you deal with the trade partners every day, and expressing and knowing the right body language definitely helps, not just construction, but like everywhere else as well. So those two books have been great. Yes. Mhm.
That is great recommendations on the body language one. It's funny that you mentioned that because I just
Mhm.
started reading another book that's called Captivate by
Captain. Okay.
Vanessa Van Edwards, and uh, she goes into how we make the best impressions and the first 5 minutes that we interact with people at networking events, social events, interviews, and whatnot. And she
Mhm.
puts a lot of emphasis on body language because that's
Mm.
one of the uh, uh,
It's
key.
unspoken language.
It's an
That's very
unspoken
important.
language, yes. And
Mhm.
she's done a lot of research on human psychology, and she has
Okay.
a website that is called Science of People. So that's where she
Okay.
shares a lot of
Okay.
content related to how we impress
Mhm.
and give that good impression on other people. So it goes in line with that body language book that you're sharing. So look at us having similar interests.
I know.
Who would
I
have
know.
thought? Who would have
I
thought?
know.
Yeah.
What if- That's right. That's right. Mhm.
Yes. All right. So I wanted to ask you, obviously, you have a very extensive experience as civil engineer, as a immigrant here in the US. What is one big takeaway that resonates with you? Like, what is one learning lesson that you always remember?
So if you missed the beginning part of this interview, I'm going to reiterate again. Um, just be inquisitive. that will lead to your interests, whether it's a one thing or multiple things, and it will help you narrow it down. If you're if you are at the situation where you have to make decisions, being inquisitive helps you grow and learn more and experience and explore more. So I think the mindset to be open-minded and to be inquisitive is just in general a good thing to have. Um, yeah, be inquisitive. It will be the one big takeaway. Mhm.
Yes, that is great. And for any civil engineers, I'm not gonna let you use the same advice, but give me some advice for some civil engineers besides being inquisitive.
For specifically for any civil engineers.
Yeah.
So civil engineering is a very, very huge field. So just, we are all used to just becoming a structural engineer or like doing like a heavy duty civil engineering project. Um, look more into it. If you look more into it, then you will find there are, transportation engineers, traffic engineers. There's environmental waterways. Like there's so many things that you can possibly do as a civil engineer. Like sometimes people do ask, like, oh, what do you do as a civil engineer? Because like people get it confused. Isn't that the same thing as being an architect, like studying architecture, I guess? Then my answer is always, for civil engineers, we design and we build everything and anything that we possibly walk. Basically, anything that you can put your feet on, that's what we work on. Whether it's the bridges, roads, obviously airports, or highways, or I guess even the building itself. Like that's what we all work on, and we should be all very proud to be uncivil engineer and who also very much shape up the city, shape up the the world, honestly. So it's a great field where everyone should be proud to be part of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well said. Well said. I remember us back in college where we were really stressed about, oh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And we thought we had to have life figured out by then in 2017. And the beauty of it, because civil engineering is so big and such a broad field, like you say, there's so many opportunities to pursue. And whether you start in one opportunity as a civil engineer does not mean you're going to remain in that type of opportunity for the rest of your lives. Just because you have a civil engineering degree, that gives you access to doors to any path that you want to take. So if you're a young engineer coming out of college, or still a young engineer trying to figure out what you want to do in civil engineering, don't sweat it. Start with something, get some experience, and you'll have the
Mhm.
opportunity to move on to all the fields. And it's something I wanted to talk to you, Stella, as well, because you started civil engineer, but you're now pursuing a master's degree
I
as
am. I
well.
am.
So tell
Mhm.
us more about that, and how is it that different from what you were doing before and
Mhm.
why you're pursuing a master's in the first place?
Mm. So I was always interested in, studying more. So I always wanted to do a master's degree after undergrad, but you know how undergrad experiences were. It definitely burns you out. So I did not also want to, start grad program right away. So I took some time. Didn't know it was going to take this long, but I took some time and I finally am pursuing. And I actually just did start since September. So thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, I will be pursuing master's degree in real estate development. I think it somewhat in a way made sense for me. I played with different ideas for my master's. Like I initially thought that I was going to go back to do structural engineering in master's. And then I realized, no, scratch that idea. Let me go to construction management because that's where I am right now. But I've been working on a lot of interior fit out projects, and historic preservation also caught my eye. So, I was also toying with that idea. And then finally, at the end, I have decided to really study real estate development. As someone who's in construction management, I'm basically given a drawing and then make that come alive. That has been my job, but As a someone who's interested in big picture overall type of thing, real estate development really opens up a door for what happens before one gets a drawing, and what happens after we turn over the project to the client. So I get to really have the experience of overall big picture, which I think is a very exciting. So that will be my journey next. Yeah.
The next couple of years.
Yes. Yes,
Because
it will take
you're attending part-time while having a full-time job. I don't know how you're going to do it or how anybody else does it. I could barely do things after I get home after a long work day. So it definitely shows a lot of dedication. And I wish you the best of luck in that journey as well. And you see, this is a beauty of civil engineering. She started as a civil engineer, wanted to be a structural engineer, and then goes into construction and now pursuing real estate development. There is not a set path from the moment you graduate. So you always have the opportunity to pursue anything you want along the way, change your careers if you wanted to. If you don't like civil engineering, there's also opportunities for that as well. You have a lot of skills that you acquire as a civil engineer that you can be applied to any other field. So I hope that if you're in that journey as well, just like Stella, don't feel like you have to do something or this is why a professional organization says that we should do it. No, you make your own decisions. You are in charge of your own career, and you can do whatever you want with it. The truth is,
I mean, Wilson knows, like, my personality, like, knowing me, not having the straight path and straight idea, it's not ideal for me in my head. But as you mentioned, it's really important to have that understanding that like, no path is straight. Like, you don't have to really make this one decision that you're making as the final decision that you're making. I'm also trying to understand that, swallow that idea, trying to explore different things. So yeah, it will be for your own sake.
yeah,
It will be good to be kind to yourself. Yeah.
yeah. Be kind and be open to any opportunities that come knock your door. All right, Stella, any final words, any final thoughts that you have to share?
My final thoughts, final words. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you and obviously sharing about myself. I am open to speaking to anyone who's interested. I have been, talking to undergrad from Cornell, undergrad students, and it has been a very fun experience. Just trying to, because I was definitely in that position as well when they reached out to me. I have done the same thing. I reached out to alum and then sat down and spoke with them. So I am more than happy and willing to speak with anyone who wants to learn a little bit more about my path. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that as the end. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely will make sure to add your link to LinkedIn so that people can connect with you and reach out to you if they have any questions. Stella, thank you so much for your time, for joining for this video interview. This video interview will also be available at our podcast, Finding the Neutral Axis podcast. So make sure that you go listen to it as well if you wanted to listen to an audio version of this, or if you wanted to learn or listen to all the episodes that we have released in Finding the Neutral Axis. Thank you so much for joining me, Stella. See you next time.